He is a University of the East College of Education alumnus of the batch 2011. He has two graduate degrees, which are Master of Arts in Education, Major in Educational Management, and Master of Arts in Education, Major in Religious and Values Education with specialization in Formative Counseling and Spiritual Direction. He is a prefect of discipline at St. Jude Catholic School, a faculty member of the High School Basic Education Department. He is also an assistant instructor at the SDI College Recto. Please welcome our resource speaker, Mr. Jonathan R. Hubila.
Right, good afternoon po. Can everyone hear me? Archie, Dana, can you hear me?
Yes po.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you. And I'm back from a week ago, and thank you for inviting me once again. Thank you for the University of the East College of Education for having me back here as your resource speaker for this afternoon's episode of your Educ Talk series. So I'd just like to extend my greetings to my former professors, Dr. Kaluweng and Professor Nina, and to the ones that I am familiar with. Janina, if I'm not mistaken, is here. So good afternoon. I was pressured. I was pressured by Ma'am Nina's opening remarks that I am an epitome of leadership. I am also still learning. I am still in the process of refining and retooling and forging better leadership output, especially in our school, since I am one of the school administrators po, particularly in student discipline, as was my talk last week po. So, especially right now, that the topic that we have is what it takes to be a leader in the new normal. And Archie and Dana were exchanging thoughts and opinions about which setup do they prefer, and is it the old, is it the new? And I like to think that I like to hearken back to my talk last week that we have to be flexible, that yes, there are things in the old that we can retain, but there are things now in the new that we have to embrace, especially as leaders. But we have to establish that mindset to our colleagues, to our members, to the ones that we are supervising, that need to mesh together, and we need to synergize the concepts that are from the old and the concepts that are from the new, and we combine them together to be able to come up with a better strategy in approaching leadership in this new normal set. So allow me to share my slide po. Do you see my presentation, Archie? Hello?
No po, sir.
Wala po, sir. Meron
Alright.
ka ito. Yes.
Okay. How about now, Archie?
Yes po, sir.
So what if the
Ito na po.
leader in the new normal, as a professor a while ago, the crisis or the test any leader, any given or in any organization that they are thrown into the mix of a very concerned handle how would they motivate their memories in good work started already. And as for others, there are really so many adjustments that you need to make, especially you balancing out your studies, balancing out your task as a student leader. At the same time, we have concerns at home. And allow me to share some insight, the insight taken from what's available and reflection when it comes to being a leader in the one. A disclaimer. So the material that I use, I do not claim ownership, just to sample properties. So tips for this webinar for this afternoon is to discuss the leadership difference between the normal setup and the new normal, to a sense of being a hardship, use of online platforms and and to appraise the spirit of leadership setup. So let's watch this clip for. Were you able to hear the audio, Archie?
Yes po, sir. Naririnig ko
Okay,
po yung audio, but
thank you.
yung video po is wala.
Oh, oh okay. So yeah, but anyway, since you were able to hear the conversation between the two characters in the particular clip po, I would just like to reiterate that, of course, our relationship now, I'm talking about in the context of education between the teacher and the student, that we have to be patient when it comes to our dealings with our students, especially right now in this particular setup. We know that our students they have this energy, they have a lot of ideas they want to share with us, but we have to temper their expectations, or as leaders we need to about our the goals that we want to have, for example in an educational setup po. So for that to happen, we need to metaphorically empty our cup. Empty our cup meaning to say, let's do away first with what we were used to, and let's have an open mind. Let's have an open mind as to the new concepts that are being thrown at us, especially right now. And I believe that is one trait that a leader should have, to be open to new ideas and be able to be flexible when it comes to adapting and adopting certain practices, certain strategies that we can employ in our own organizations, in our own situations. So I'll just split my talk into two. So first would be what has been said about leadership and what can I say about leadership. So let's start with the first one. What has been said about leadership? Of course, when we tackle leadership topics, we cannot do away with this particular personality, this prominent person when it comes to leadership, and who is John Maxwell. So he had this podcast recently, just this month. He was able to watch this documentary series in the life of Michael Jordan entitled The Last Dance. Uh, and he took out lessons of leadership from the series, from the 10-part series. And I'd like to share with you. I highlighted one aspect, one lesson that Maxwell highlighted from that particular documentary series. So he mentioned that Michael Jordan's success is greater than his talent. He argued that there are other basketball personalities during MJ's time pertaining to Michael Jordan that have the same level of talent as his. I will not delve into the technicalities of NBA because I am not a fan. I'm not a basketball fan. So, but Maxwell argued that MJ's talent, it's not that far from the others during far from his contemporaries of his time, but it's just that his success catapulted him into the status that he garnered during his time, and even until now. That is why there are fans out there, and even the authorities when it comes to professional basketball, who until now argue who is the greatest of all time when it comes to basketball. Because success is not enough, choice is just as important. So the choices that we make, the choices that we embark into, what we do with what we have is very important as compared to what we have right now. Coupled it with success and opportunities, then it would be a good recipe for success and to be able to render it as a leader in your particular area of expertise. So Maxwell coined the term talent plus person. As what Prof. Nina already mentioned a while ago, leaders are not born, they are made. But of course, you have in you your inherent traits already of a leader. You have it in you, but the thing is, do you use it to its maximum potential? You have the talent, but do you take it to the next level? Do you make the right choices? Do you have the right opportunities, or do you capitalize on those opportunities that are presented to you from time to time? And with that, you can generate success. I heard from a radio show a while ago while I was driving going to the location of my school. He mentioned a time-old saying that hard work beats talent when talent is not working hard enough. So you may be a good singer, you may be a good dancer, or you have what it takes to be a good performer in that particular field. But if you don't hone it, or if no one was able to capitalize or optimize on your talent, then it will remain as a talent and it will not be exploited in its in every positive way. So that was what Maxwell discussed in his podcast, that for you to become an effective leader, you need to become a talent plus person. So you need to have add-ons. If you are fond of drinking milk tea, we're always fond of the add-ons. We're not satisfied with the milk tea itself. We need to have the pearl or the nata de coco or other add-ons that we have, which makes it more appealing, which makes it more viable for consumption, for marketability, the add-ons. So we as leaders in our respective fields, we need to be that particular person, a talent plus person. And we have to keep in mind that we are only as good as your last. So right now, personally, I've been rendering webinars here and there. And as I reflect on how I give out these content, you know, it is very important that you don't become very confident in what you are doing right now, especially as leaders, because you have to remember that the last performance that you have, the last activity that you rendered, will only be as good compared to the next one. So we are not sure if the next activity that you will be having will be as successful as the last one. So you have to be on your toes. You have to be able to to garner those experiences from your past, to be able to refine your technique, to be able to refine your strategy in order for you to become better than the last. How much better? Way better than the last time. So here's another article book. I saw this in Inc.com. These are the 4 new trends in leadership to watch this year. So this was published January 28th. So way within the time frame of the pre-pandemic. So he mentioned 4 trends. First would be proactive rewards for smart risks. There's a caveat here, everyone. Smart risks. So promotional risk taking when it comes to strategies, when it comes to production, when it comes to output, should be encouraged rather than discouraged, because traditional forms of leadership would tell us, you have to play it smart, you have to play it safe. But the trend that is coming out right now is that you have to encourage those people who are willing to go outside of the box, to try out, to experiment on new ways or techniques for them to be able to deliver a certain output, be it in education, be it in your student council activities. Instead of reprimanding that particular member or that particular colleague of yours that he didn't go with the way that the leadership or the management wanted him or her to track upon or to trek upon. So smart risk taking is emphasized in this new trend this year. And respect for soft skills. Could we have a discussion for a while? what could be the difference between soft and hard skills? Could you give us examples of hard and soft skills? You can do it in the chat. What I'm seeing right now is the chat from Google Meet. What? Archie, can you see my presentation for the technical
Yeah.
problem?
Yes po. Yes, sir.
Nawala ba kanina? Wala. Okay. So track for a while. So there. So I was saying a while ago, a talent plus person is important. It's very crucial for any leader to be a talent plus person because he or she has to be ahead of the pack. A good example to his or her colleagues, to his or her members. To do that, you have to make the right choice. You have to grab the opportunity when it is presented so that you can be great success given situation. Like I said a while ago, so do not get too cocky, do not be too confident. You have to consolidate your past experiences in order for you to be able to properly and to be way better than the last. So as I was mentioning a while ago, these new trends in leadership. First would be smart to be able to go out of the norm that the organization renders in when it comes to coming up of outputs. And next for soft, I was asked gardens soft skills. So exam education, of course, you have to have the mastery of subject area for teachers. You have to have the pedagogical techniques. You have to have approaches, strategies, methods in teaching that. And of course, you need to finish a degree in education or satisfy a certificate of teaching to teach. And those are hard skills. But to the soft skills, we focus here more on deal with other our interaction. It is not for managers to be knowledgeable to just have it all here, but we need to metaphorically have it here also. We need to have a heart for leadership. We need to be able to relate to our colleagues, to our members, so that there is no gap, there is no detachment from the management, from the administration to let me coin it into rank and file or from the teacher to the students, there is no significant gap that is being realized in an organization. So thirdly, prioritization of the whole person. Okay, so especially right now, most, if not all of us, are work from home. We are confined within our homes to do everything. So there is no locationary divide anymore. We don't have an area for We don't have technically an area for working and for just relaxing or being at home, because everything that we do right now is confined within our home. So leaders or managers need to realize that, and it doesn't mean that we are working from home, that we are already working 24/7. So we need to have that routine still, that there are times, that there are periods wherein this time is dedicated for work and this time is dedicated for recreation or for household activities already. So leaders need to be flexible in their scheduling of activities for their members, for their colleagues, so that uh, they consider the whole person. There's no divide anymore. It's not anymore here you are as an employee, and at home you're already a family man or a family person. So it is already meshed together right now. So that is why that is one trend to be considered in 2020. And lastly, unnecessary hierarchy. So we are not so much anymore concerned with who signs what, who answers to whom. We need to emphasize now more than ever, since we are facing a new normal. We need to be more collaborative. We need to be more communal when it comes to dealing with our colleagues, with our members, and those who are we are supervising with, so that there is no strain anymore when it comes to the outputs that the members make, but instead they work in such a way that they are not restrained anymore as to the protocols. Of course, it is still important that there is someone who is leading the team, but you entrust the tasks to them already in such a way that you are already delegating some of the authority to them. And that is another trend to watch out for 2020. And I believe there are already organizations that are employing or using this strategy, that they eliminate too much hierarchy, too much emphasis on the organizational chart, that who is on top, who is here, who's below. And sometimes it is just ego, power tripping, ego tripping already, that I'm here in the middle management, or I'm here in the senior management, so they have to follow, they have to do it the way I do it, or the way I want it to be done. So that needs to change right now, especially in this new normal that we have. So just to sum up the article that I have, so in the old leadership style, we have safe playing. We put emphasis on playing it safe. So long as we deliver, it's fine. So we don't explore anymore on new strategies or new techniques to deliver those outputs. So in the old, we are emphasizing too much on hard skills. We are too rigid and too hierarchical. But in the new one, we hope that we emphasize risk taking, the caveat being smart risk taking, not reckless, but calculated risk. That's the term I'm looking for. Calculated risk. So I will discuss how to calculate your risk, and an emphasis more on soft skills, but not doing away with the hard skills. Of course, that is important, but once you see the member or a particular, once you see it in your leader, that the leader has a heart to lead, has a heart to manage and take care of his or her members or colleagues, then the hard skills can come after. The person can study, the person can still enroll in different seminars, in different development continuous development programs that are being offered. So, but soft skills, these are hard to come by, even though that we can attend different seminars. But you know, soft skills are inherent in a person. If you can relate to other people, then that is fine and well for becoming a leader. So from rigidity to flexibility, we have to be flexible. So whether we go back to the old or we retain with the new, mixing some old, then we can thrive. We can be able to survive any pandemic, any crisis that the education sector, for example, will face in the future or in the present. From hierarchical, we become communal. So we are not so much held up with our work titles, but we are more concerned with how we become a team player and be able to generate the output that we want, since at the end of the day what we all want is success for our organization. So why impede, why hamper people with too much hierarchy when community or communal ideas would better work for them, so that they are not hindered by any hierarchical roadblocks or speed bumps along the way, so that they could be able to produce outputs for the organization. So the key takeaway for that article is leadership in 2020 is simple. No nonsense, less ceremonies. Well, for students, you wouldn't want to miss out on your in your graduation ceremonies or other formal ceremonies. But here it talks about, the grand standing of leaders and managers in an organization. So the age of stale leadership philosophy should end or has ended. The new age of trust, honesty, and personal initiative has finally begun. So leadership anymore is not it's not just about who's on top, but it's about those who belong to that particular organization. It's not just anymore about one person. So this is what I was talking
Hello,
about
sir.
when I was, yes.
I guess, sir, but sorry to interrupt po, but the PowerPoint
Yes, Dave.
presentation po is not visible daw po again.
Okay,
Thank you po.
keep on. How about now, Dana?
Yes po, sir. Thank you po, sir, for the interruption po again.
Okay. Okay, keep putting it in full so that everyone can see. So risk can be done if you know your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I don't know if you've encountered this. I hope you have already, especially leaders who are in any organization. The SWOT analysis, which in turn you transfer to rules matrix, but here's for an organizational an organ's weaknesses, opportunities are found internally. What is happening in these and threats outside external factors and your identify that you try to call it those. So this analysis, this matrix, this is nothing new. This has been around already. They are unsure of the origin, but the earliest account is in 1950s already. So we have to identify these in order for you to be able to properly to address with threats stacking your organization. In a sense, be able to pinpoint and see those all that you will be able to come up with good strategies so that you don't get overwhelmed, especially with the weaknesses and the threats that are present as usual. Just a good example. Nokia during its its market of mobile phones, of course, they are selling very well, but I know you know what happened to Nokia already. They got overwhelmed. They weren't able to catch up with the.
Hello po. Wait lang po natin si Sir Jonathan. I think he's having a technical problem po. Sorry po, and please kindly wait po. Thank you.
I apologize, I got cut off, so let me continue po. I apologize for that one. So there. So I was saying, Nokia is a classic example if not able to capitalize or be able to assist. Eventually, you will see you will assist in any for that. So maybe another example could be Jollibee. Uh, I believe you know what happened in Inasal. So Jollibee bought most of the shares among Inasal. So they eliminated the threat by purchasing their computation. So so of course all companies, all organizations have war, but it is important that they any organization or any any entity for that matter do not get overwhelmed by threats and weaknesses outside, but instead they capitalize on their strengths to be able to maximize and tap onto their opportunities that they haven't tapped. And this is something that has resurfaced. This is nothing new. Also, this has been around in the 1980s already. Actually, this is a strategy that was employed by the military. We call it the VUCA. Okay, so especially right now in this pandemic, we are thrown into this VUCA world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, of course, these are the negative one. We have no choice but to be able to address these matters so that we can be able to come up with solutions and strategies as a leader. So volatility, the rate of change, how fast are the changes in society happening? So right now we are thrown into a sudden change. We are change our ways right now. Realized a century since the last pandemic that happened. around 1918, the last pandemic that happened. So that is way beyond the. So times have changed, technology has prospered, but another concern would be globalization. We are too interconnected that the virus spreads faster compared to previous periods that we are not so much interconnected with one another, but that they do not have the technology. They're well versed in the medicine. That is why the mortality rate that time. So maybe that is why we can hamper the mortality rate compared to the previous pandemic. But nevertheless, this pandemic has hit hard on our norms, for example, in education, thrown in remote learning setup. So need to address these four aspects: uncertainty, complexity, and so are there previous decisions? Are there precedents to such an event that we can look into so that this will dictate on how we will approach this problem, this situation that we have right now. But if there is none, that's a threat to us because we have no basis for our movement, for our next move. We have no basis uh, for our new strategy to employ. That is why instead of focusing too much on the negative VUCA, we translate it into the positive ones. For positivity, for it needs to have a vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So just a piece of advice to student leaders out there. Every time you make a project or every time you launch a particular program, you always harken back. You always go back to the VMO of your school, of your institution, so that you have a very good picture as to where you want your organization to lead into. You always go back. That is the anchor of every organization: their vision, their mission, their objectives, and their goals. So the acid test of the VMOG that for any organization is: will it stand the test of time? Will it be applicable in any given scenario? Would the administration, would the members be able to apply this, especially right now because we are thrown into a new setup, which we have understanding. Of course, this is something new for all of us. We haven't implemented this fully before, especially for those who are in the older generations. They have more catching up to do. Unlike with the Gen Z, with the Gen Alpha, they are intuitive when it comes to the use of technology. So greater or deeper understanding should be given by the leaders, by the facilitators, in order for an output to be rendered to any given scenario. So clarity, this is in opposition to complexity. Simplihan natin. Let's make it simple so that we can address problems one at a time. So simplicity is the key, and we divert our resources instead of being too put up with the old. Let's divert it to the new ones. Let's divert our resources to the new way of doing things so that we do not waste our energies contemplating on or putting regret o nangihinayang tayo na ay wala na ito, sayang naman, di natin nagawa. So divert right away, which leads us to the last one, which is agility. Make decisions fast, We need to do it as quick as possible. Otherwise, we will be overwhelmed by the negative VUCA because volatility will not stop for us. Especially we are about to start the school year. It was just flashed a while ago that there's already a new law that the president may defer the opening of classes, but nevertheless, we are very much well into the opening of the school year. So we have fast. We have to make uh, our ideas free flowing. We can address the possible concerns in the future. So the accountability is still ingrained in all of us, in the members, and even within the leaders. So that is how that is calculated risk taking, and we have to address that we are submerged into this VUCA world. And in order to address that VUCA, we need to translate it into a positive VUCA. So what can I say about leadership right now? So I assigned verbs for the word leaders, and here it is. So leaders, they learn from others, empathizes with others, accepts criticisms from others, delegates functions to others, empowers others, recommends others, and supports others. Let's go with the first one. Leaders learn. They do not stop learning. And for me, for example, I am right now I am part of the admin. I administer student discipline, but I am an English teacher by actual profession. So I do not let my the English teacher in completely. I still attend webinars and seminars to retool myself and be able to be updated with the latest trends in teaching language and literature. But of course, we have to focus our study by adding more into our arsenal. Because like I said a while ago, leaders be a step ahead of their employees, hamper their employees to be a better version of themselves, because it is a win-win situation for any organization, for the leaders and its members to be both leveling up. And another trait that leaders should have is to acknowledge that we don't know everything, that we are not all knowing. And there might be a member or two of us who can do it better than us. So pass the task to them. But we do not leave them as be. We still coach them, we still facilitate them in such a way that the goal or the output will still be reached, regardless of what. And I remember a statement from the last webinar from Professor Gresha. She mentioned that wala o baka pumanaw. Yeah. So if we do not move, if we do not exercise our leadership muscles, it will fade away. So in any given organization, if we do it ourselves, especially leaders, update ourselves to the latest trend with what internally is external or corrupting the system. itself. It is not beneficial. We separate criticism. How we wish that all of our public leaders would be as sensitive as this governor from Cavite is. So you as leaders, you have to understand where your members are coming from. We have different backgrounds, we have different personalities, so we cannot just see the person as an employee. We need to see the person, like I said a while ago, in the trends. We need to see the employee as a whole person. So the activities at home might not be divorced from the activities that is happening at work. So we have to be sensitive to those matters. And especially if your members, if your colleagues see something wrong or something amiss in what we are implementing or what we are doing, then we should be willing, we should be open to constructive criticism. That, like I said, we don't know it all as leaders, we won't know it all, but we need to be open so that we can better ourselves. Next would be to delegate. I was searching the internet for a very good example of delegation, and luckily I came across this by Mayor Soto, by Mayor Pico Soto. And this is a very good example. Allow me to read it. I am not an academic and also on my plate. So I've asked Councilor Cory who are very competent taking the upcoming school year. Councilor Cory was a VP for Academic Affairs in UP. Students of Pasig are in good hands. This is a classic, this is a very good example of leaders delegating the task. That is a leader. But in a sense, you expect the expertise of, in a good way, in a positive way, not to exploit them, that sila na lang lahat. You just threw all the tasks to your members and you just being a slave driver, just do all of these things, and here you are sitting pretty already. No. Of course, the oversight will still come from the leader or from whoever's facilitating, but not all activities should be micromanaged. So that is what I'm trying to say. In the council setup, for example, in student councils, that is why you have committees. There are committees that can be formed, and of course, the oversight will still come from the council president, for example. But you delegate those committees to your council members, or even those members, that the student members that you have that do not form part of the administrative body of the council, but you delegate the certain tasks of a committee so that they will be the ones to take care of that particular task that you need to have. But of course, like I said, oversight still comes from the top level. So that's delegation. An example from the scriptures. I'm not highlighting Jesus. I am not proselytizing any religion po, although I'm a Catholic. But we are reflecting on the way Jesus was a leader during his time. So he even selected 72 people and sent them two by two. So we can learn a thing or two about how Jesus administered leadership during his time. Hindi niya po sinarili lahat because he knows that he cannot do everything, and he needs to be relatable. Of course, we know that religion-wise, Jesus was not just a man, but he needs to be relatable to the people. That is why delegation, he used appointment to be able to set an example to the 12, to his 12 disciples or his 12 apostles to show that this is how you should be able to treat. This is how you should be able to spread the good news accounts. But this is a very good example. So next would be to empower. We empower others to be able to proceed with their outputs. So here's an example po. These two organizations that I am showing, that I will show to you right now, they are initiated by my former students in this school, in St. Jude Catholic School po. This initiative, this staff initiative, stemmed from the fact that businesses along Taft Avenue, especially the ones near LaSalle, Benil, or other schools within that area, PWU, are badly affected by the pandemic, so much so that they are just opting to close up shop, or they cannot keep up with the demands of transacting online. That is why the student of mine started this activity to be able to allow businesses to thrive even in this pandemic. So this is the Taft initiative. And another would be, they named it Hiraya Manawari. So this initiative or this project, they aim to help the children in Happy Land in Tobe to raise funds or raise materials for their schooling, so that they could be able to be of help. So this is how a leader should act, that we enable, we empower, so that they would be able to continue, they would be able to thrive in any particular situation. We give them the tools, just like we said that give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, and you will feed him for a lifetime. So, but we have to start with bigyan niyo po sila ng fighting chance to be able to continue and to thrive. Next would be to recommend. So here's an article from Harvard Business Review. So this is from the uniformed personnel also. This is from 2014. And he highlighted that great leadership isn't about you. I'd like to believe if this saying could be applicable to a situation, the famous saying that we have na walang forever. In leadership, wala rin pong forever. What do I mean by that? You won't be there on top forever. There will come a time that someone gets appointed in your stead. Or there will come a time that you need to hang up and give the reins to someone else. So it is very important in any organization that you have a succession plan. May ba sa'yo anyone eligible to replace you or to succeed your position? So great leaders recommend, great leaders prepare. They prepare of the management, they prepare for the administration. They do not just leave their organizations. Hindi nila iiwan ito na, bahala na kayo, tapos na yung term ko eh. So, good luck. So, it shouldn't be that way. So, he highlighted 4 aspects that leaders should have. Leaders should listen to other people's ideas, no matter how different they may be from your own. So it is very toxic for leaders to be close-minded in such a way that allow other people, the dissenting ones, especially those who are not in line with your vision. But sometimes we have to really to consider that in that nakikita sila na hindi mo nakikita. So we should eliminate this. I'd like to term it like uh, Tapa Oo leadership. I don't know if you know the Tapa Oo, the ones that are being used in horses to like blinders, so that they would only see what is in front of them, so that they're not distracted with what is happening around them. We shouldn't have this Tapa Oo leadership na eto lang, this is the only way, this is my way, you do it my way or the highway. Hindi po pwedeng consider, and we need the inputs of other people. So next would be we embrace and promote self-service. Servant leadership is very important. Na already this to others. So hindi lang just on to step down and be able to be of charity to others as well. Great leaders ask great questions, so that we stimulate, invigorate the ideas that are coming from others. Lastly, they don't your own publicity. Not about the title says. Leadership shouldn't be about you, or hindi lang ito tungkol sa'yo. So stop playing politics in leadership. Of course, there is a room for politics, a little politics, but too much of it is toxic in any situation, in any organization, especially office politics. So we should emphasize more on the harmonious relationships that we should have within our members and as leaders. So up that particular article, be collaborative, that we assign roles that we ourselves should be willing to perform at whole-rounded leader, that it's not just about the others doing the task so that you could get away with the task, but you assign it to them because you trust them with that particular task, and you yourself would be willing, or you know how to do that particular task. So from self-centeredness to other-centeredness to other-centered. So just to hearken to Jesus being a great leader. So first in this article, leaders recruit. So you already see a potential in them na you won't be threatened by them na ay baka palitan lang ako nito in the future, baka agawin lang nito yung posisyon ko, napakaganda na ng posisyon ko, I've worked hard for this. That is self-centered leadership. Being other-centered is you care, you have a heart for leadership, and you see the potential of other people to you but you have to prepare them. Kaya nga I am a big fan of succession plans in any organization, na dapat may hinuhubog na tayo, dapat may inihahanda na tayo. This is applicable also to student councils, na at most you are only given a term. So dapat may nakikita ka na pwedeng humalili sa'yo, pwedeng pumalit, of course through elections, but you are already honing someone to replace you, and for you to share your great practices, your good practices in them, and to tell them also the ones that are not so good, so that they would learn from it also. So leaders ensure the management team is prepared for the future. So I already discussed this a while ago, na you don't leave the management team unprepared. So because there might be a time na there will be a vacuum in leadership. Who will step up? That is the question. Especially right now, medyo blurred ang lines between leadership and collaboration. So who will step up to facilitate? So great leaders ensure that someone can be deputized, someone can be of an OIC to for any vacuum that a management will be left with. And lastly, leaders leave a legacy through their inspiration and motivation. Like I said a while ago, walang forever sa leadership. But what is forever is your legacy. Ano ba yung iniwan mo? Ano yung maganda? What is the lasting effect that you left on the organization? That is why personally po, I'm happy. I think I saw an activity of the Educ Council, Educ Karangalan, if I'm not mistaken, that is still being done now until now. If I'm not mistaken po, that's in my student council po a decade ago. So I am happy that that one particular project, for example, is still being implemented until now. And that is also why you not just throw away good projects just because it doesn't have your brand, it doesn't have your signature on it, but you evaluate those projects, you evaluate those activities in such a way that we retain, we adapt, or we adopt projects or outputs that are good and are beneficial and still applicable until now. So that is another trait that leaders should have as well. And lastly, we have support. So of course, like I mentioned prior, restrict. Of course, we have rules, we have regulations in any organization. With those restrictions, it should be coupled, may kaakibat po na provision. May pag-uubaya po na hindi lang pwedeng bawal ito, bawal ito, bawal ito, bawal ito. Eh ano na lang pwede pong gawin ng members nyo? Ano na lang pwede pong gawin ng colleagues nyo? You need to provide them with a leeway. So I'd just like to give this an example. Of course, our very own mayor here in Manila is very strict on the quarantine measures, especially with children, because children are not allowed to go outside right now. So that's the restriction part. But he has this, he is coming up with projects already so that by the time that the children could come out, it is ready. The recreation parks are ready by the time that the children are allowed to go outside. So hindi lang puro pagbabawal, meron din pong pag-uubaya kahit paano po. And of course, a classic example would be this one. He did not limit the testing to Manileños. He even allowed non-Manileños to avail of this test, of the test for the COVID test, so that he reasoned that siguro naman by the time na kami naman po ang mangailangan, that you won't turn a blind eye on us. That he is investing how to save of others also. Na he could have did too much of the facility of the local government, but he did not. He was generous enough to open it even to non-Malireños, which is a very good trait of a leader, to be able to foresee, to be able to support, and be able to identify the future needs of an organization. Lastly, this is what I've been hearing in the webinars that I've attended in how to manage people, how do you put this new normal. The center of it all is malasakit. The culture of malasakit should prevail in any organization. That we are concerned first with one another before we tackle the rudiments or the technicalities of any output that needs to be done. Alalahanin niyo muna yung pagkatao, because especially right now, we are, based on the previous talks, we are psychologically challenged, we are mentally challenged. Our physical needs, our financial aspects are all challenged right now. So employees, members do not need the cultural hierarchy. That's what I've said a while ago. They need a culture of malasakit right now, that they won't be hindered, they won't be scared, but instead they would feel at home, and they would really impart the heart of leadership in you so that thrive and work together in the future, so that whether we go back to the old or we proceed with the new, or it's a mix of both, we retain the good ones that we learned from the new normal, and one of which would be the culture of Malasakit.